Ahoy, fellow Blender users and prospective users. I just wanted to walk you through my view of Blender after using the software for about 500 hours at this point. Some of you may be wondering what Blender actually is and what you can do in it. To start, Blender is an open source program, meaning anyone can contribute to the code, and it's completely free to use, which is awesome because most other industry standard softwares for 3D modeling, such as Maya, ZBrush, and Houdini, all have really huge price tags associated with their tools. That can just be too much, especially if you're picking up 3D art as a hobby or a passion project. So what is Blender actually used for? Well, Blender is a 3D modeling, animation, and VFX software, but it also has the capability to do texturing, rendering, compositing, and a bunch of other things. And that might sound like a lot, and it kinda is, but most people that I've seen using Blender only ever touch maybe half those features and spend most of their time doing mostly only one or two of those things. So you really only need to learn what you're interested in doing. For example, I don't think I touched animation for probably my first 200 hours using Blender, and it was just because I was having a lot of fun modeling and making renders, and so I was just using those two basic tools. Hopefully you have at least a basic idea of what Blender is now, if you didn't already. But how do you get started making your own art, game models, videos, or whatever? Well, if you have no experience whatsoever with Blender and just need an easy way to step into the software and get an understanding of how to use it, I recommend the donut tutorial from Blender Guru, which is a really good introduction to modeling, texturing, lighting, rendering, and animation. So it kind of covers all the basics. At this point, it's almost like a rite of passage for new Blender users. You can go on pretty much any forum or Reddit post and say, oh, I did the donut tutorial, and people will kind of know what you're talking about because they probably started with that themselves. But if you're already comfortable modeling, or maybe you just already watched the donut tutorials and followed along, I recommend you actually open up Blender and just get started on something. As a beginner, you can really feel like you don't have enough knowledge to get started working on something that you want to do, because it feels like you won't be able to really achieve the vision that you have. And I got stuck in that same phase myself. But oftentimes the only way to make something that's really cool in Blender is to fail a few times first. So it can be really beneficial to just jump in and sculpt some really bad looking faces or make a really gross looking car, just because it'll help you make those mistakes that'll let you learn and make a better car the next time. And maybe that isn't super encouraging, and certainly you can still make good looking art in Blender even as a beginner. I mean, my donut, not to toot my own horn, was pretty great. But for every great piece of art, there's going to be some failures. For example, this is my latest project, which was about at the 500-hour mark. It's a Gothic mausoleum, but this first face I sculpted in Blender looked like this. And my next face looked like this, and it was only after a few dozen tries that I started to get even moderately good looking faces. And the same is probably true for just about anything you're looking at making. Once you do start getting some experience though in Blender, there are some truly amazing things you can do. For every big Blender update, Blender Institute releases a new short film that shows off the capabilities of that new Blender version. And some of these videos are pretty impressive. The newest version is Sprite Fright, which shows off a lot of the new tools in Blender 3.0. You can see clearly that the level of quality is pretty close, if not better, than what other professional studios can do. And while these projects are often worked on by larger teams, you can also look at channels such as Ian Hubert, where it's just one guy making shots that look like they're from blockbuster movies from, 1 or 2 years ago. There's also a massive community behind Blender, so it's easy to find hundreds of tutorials and videos like this on YouTube, as well as forum discussions to help you on your journey if you're just starting out. So good luck on your future projects, and thanks for watching.